very well this evening. Tonight I would like to share one of my favorite jazz albums with you and one of my favorite singers, and also talk a little bit about the unique history behind these artists, how they connect to music history in the United States and history in a broader sense. This is just a fantastic album. It's sort of got this very friendly, just sort of a normal outdoor scene of Ella Fitzgerald and Duke Ellington. You can tell that they have kind of a friendly familiarity with each other and just kind of a positive regard for each other. They're just very, very relaxed. It's sort of an interesting angle in terms of, they're looking away from the camera. It's almost this very naturalistic pairing and image, as well as this kind of nostalgic looking font. On the back we have another very natural looking photo of the two of them. Just an unguarded moment where it seems like their ease of collaboration and just ease with each other is apparent yet again. And on the inside you have another image, another candid image. Let's see if I can get it to a better spot. Yeah, right here. And some minor detailed notes for each of the songs on the album. So I'll begin with telling you a little bit more about Ella Fitzgerald. So aside from her history as an artist, she is one of my all-time favorite singers. I was going to say perhaps my favorite female singer, but I think that she's probably in my top 3 or 4 singers of any gender. Her voice is so incredible. Her pitch is perfect. It's divine. The way that she was able to sing is just, to me, completely sublime and beautiful, and anytime I would like a little uplift to the spirit, I can count on her voice, her records, her songs, because her voice is really, to me, just unlike any other. There's a sweetness to it. She's really one of the most iconic jazz singers. She had an incredible range, as well as her beautiful intonation, and her vocal range itself, and as well as the range of types of music that she was able to sing, were truly outstanding and really set her apart. Another aspect of her artistry that really made her unique and for which she was renowned was her ability to improvise. So she was really an incredible scat singer, and people compared her ability to improvise and just kind of sing notes perfectly to an instrument, like a flute or a horn, that she was able to play with really absolute control and perfection, really, if that's possible on earth. But I never get tired of hearing her beautiful singing. She actually she recorded a series of records where she sang a number of songs from specific composers. So another record in that vein was Ella Fitzgerald sings the Rodgers and Hart songbook. That's another one maybe we can talk about sometime, as well as a number of others by specific composers. And some of these were in the jazz canon, the Great American Songbook jazz songs. Others of these were show tunes and popular songs from the early 20th century through the mid 20th century. And she sang all of them with equal grace and beauty. Really, truly iconic beauty. She had sort of a rough start in her life. So she was born in 1917 and she lived until 1966. And she was born in Newport News, Virginia, and was really a fantastic student as a child. She loved to sing and dance. So I read, even as a little kid, and she enjoyed dancing and singing for her classmates. So she was going along in her school career, and then unfortunately her mother passed away in a tragic car accident, and she went to live with a family member, but ultimately ended up running away and sort of bounced around, and ultimately was sent to an orphanage, actually. By this time living, I believe, in New York. And when she was 16, she won an award at Amateur Night at the Apollo Theater, one of the early amateur nights at the Apollo Theater in Manhattan. And was very well received. However, because of her sort of disheveled demeanor, her kind of difficult teenage life, she did not come back or perhaps I was not clear if she was not invited back or if she chose not to come back for the full week of performances that were part of that award. So as part of winning that amateur night best of award, the idea was that she could perform for an entire week. So even though she was not able to take advantage of that, the band leader, who was famous at the time, a famous jazz band leader, Chick Webb, invited her to come and sing with them, with his jazz orchestra at Yale University, at a dance for the college students, I'm assuming. And she was incredibly well received, the orchestra as well, but she was really kind of a smash hit at that event, and that really helped to launch her early career. So she sang with a number of jazz orchestras, and her second manager, Norman Granz, founded Verve Records to highlight and showcase her talent, and she released a series of records, as we mentioned before, from different specific composers, all on the Verve Records label. So this is also a Verve album. Verve was known for having the largest collection of jazz artists of any other label. So some other very famous jazz musicians were also on Verve, as well as some other genres. In the 1960s and 70s, I believe. So I will pull out a little bit and show you this Verve logo. You can see here, and read some of the songs that are on it. So it has two distinct sides, and the tone of each side is supposed to be different. So one is kind of this gentle, more romantic side. The other side is more of like a dancing, upbeat side. So the romantic side is called the pretty, the lovely, the tender, hold me close side. And some of the songs on that side are Something to Live For, A Flower is a Lovesome Thing, Passion Flower, I Like a Surprise, and turning it over, the more upbeat side is called the finger snapping, head shaking, toe tapping, go for yourself side. And some of the songs on that side are Imagine My Frustration, Duke's Place, What Am I Here For, and Cottontail. This record was manufactured by MGM Records on Sunset Boulevard, Hollywood, California. Very famous. I'll put it back in its case now and move on to talk a little bit more about Duke Ellington, who was also an incredibly influential figure in the history of jazz. He was also an incredibly influential figure in the history of jazz. He was born in 1899 and he lived until 1974. He was known for really cultivating the big band jazz sound in the early 20th century. And his jazz orchestra went through many different incarnations over the years, but it lasted in some form or another for over 50 years. So really an incredible legacy. And not only that, he recorded over 1,000 of his own compositions, or those that he collaborated with other composers on. Over 1,000 compositions, which is just kind of staggering over the course of his lifetime. He was a very distinctive figure. So I read a childhood story about him and how he got his name, which was that his family kind of wanted him to cultivate, nice manners and a cultivated appearance. And he really loved dressing in a dapper way and having very gracious manners, very respectful, polite manners. And one of his good childhood friends said that he was basically like a nobleman. So he earned the title Duke Ellington. And throughout his life, he was known for being incredibly gracious and genteel, gentlemanly. He maintained that demeanor through his entire life. And it was something that was sort of like an iconic aspect of his persona. He, in addition to writing many compositions, he was an important social and cultural figure in additional ways. As part of the Harlem Renaissance, he played a pivotal role in that. As part of the Harlem Renaissance, which was a significant social and cultural artistic movement among African American artists and citizens in Harlem, New York, throughout the United States, really, but that was sort of the locus of it. And he was also a civil rights activist. He became famous in part because of his residency at the Cotton Club, which was a very famous nightclub in Harlem, which ironically was segregated. There were still many segregated spaces in Manhattan. But it was sort of a legendary club where his residency allowed him to really gain prominence. And Ella Fitzgerald was also a civil rights activist. So she achieved the Presidential Medal of Freedom, as well as the NAACP's first presidential award, and was just incredible in so many different ways. So I really love that this album brings together two of the most influential and incredible figures in jazz on really an incredible album. This is one that I feel I enjoy savoring, so it's to be savored. It's one that I think it just commands too much of my attention to be one that I would listen to in the background while I'm doing other things. I think it really deserves its own space and its own enjoyment and time. Just truly incredible. And to close, I would like to read from the liner notes for one of my favorite songs on the album, Something to Live For. There is a very special history behind Something to Live For. The original draft of this song, soon completed by Duke, who arranged it for the band, was the first example of Billy Strayhorn's work accepted by Ellington. The two had met backstage at the Stanley Theater in Pittsburgh in December of 1938. Impressed by the sophisticated lyrics and music, the youngster auditioned for him that night. Ellington promised to do something with the song someday. 3 months later, in February, Strayhorn went out to New York and, without warning, took Duke up on his offer. His talent as an arranger was entirely secondary. the time in everyone's mind, including Strayhorn's. Something to Live For made a perfect vehicle in 1939 for a young singer Duke was trying out, a girl named Jean Eldridge. To this day, if you ask Duke Ellington to name the best record he ever made, he will either grin and answer, "The one coming up," or he will say, "I remember the one I did in 1939, called Something to Live For. Everything just seemed to go right on that one. Besides, did you know that was our first record on which Strayhorn was our collaborator?" Naturally, for any song that held such nostalgic strength for Ellington, a new version had a special meaning. But in Ella's version, a new dimension is accompanied. It is added a verse sung free of tempo and accompanied at the piano by Jimmy Jones, who accepted a suggestion to play when Duke, in a typical noblesse oblige gesture, turned over the keyboard to him. As the chorus starts, the arrangement eases into tempo and there are touches of Paul Gonsalves' tenor, along with a remarkably Ellingtonian series of reed voicings by Mr. Jones. Duke, whose sense of balance is no less immaculate than his clothing, was careful not to let Paul intrude on Ella. "All I want," he said, "is a smoky atmosphere, not too much, Paul. Just a light, smoky sound." And if you listen to that track, it absolutely does have this sense of the music swelling and wafting, sort of wafting upwards. And it's interesting. It's something that occurred to me even before I read the notes, but now reading the notes, understanding that the inspiration was sort of a smoky club, makes perfect sense. So I highly recommend this album, Ella at Duke's Place. It is inspiring. It is full of rich, textured sounds that will kind of stir your soul, and just incredible singing. So, thank you for joining me tonight. Please let me know if there are aspects of musical history or certain albums or artists you'd like to see explored here. I hope that you are well and you have a beautiful, peaceful